My name is Izzy Najedlik.
My name is Bess Aronoff.
I'm Katie Babe.
We're doing our project on individuals with invisible disabilities among us at Ohio State University.
We found a quote from Ellen Samuels' My Body, My Closet piece we read in class that relates to our project. Moreover, people with non-visible disabilities not only are marginalized in disability communities, but walk an uneasy line between those communities and the dominant culture, often facing significant discrimination because our identities are unrecognized or disbelieved.
So for our project, we each interviewed a few of our friends, and we tried to get as diverse a group of people in terms of disabilities. But one thing we wanted to sort of put out there as a disclaimer is that we were unable to really encompass a lot of diversity in terms of race and ethnicity. So our population is not representative of the entire population.
Hi, my name is Hannah Whitney. I'm a sophomore here at OSU. I'm a pharmaceutical sciences major with a passion for music and writing.
Hey, I'm Corey. I'm a sophomore. I'm a songwriter.
My name is Nick Mysick. I am a sophomore here at Ohio State.
I'm Chandler. I'm a junior here at Ohio State. I'm a human resources major. I'm a part of a business fraternity, and one of my biggest hobbies is I love to read.
My name is Natasha Beers. I am 20. I'm a sophomore, and my major is marketing. I'm on the club tennis team.
My name is Maria Zendarsik. I'm a sophomore here at Ohio State, majoring in chemical engineering.
I have Tourette syndrome.
I have severe food allergies.
I have ADHD.
I have anxiety.
I have migraines and chronic migraine and chronic headache.
I have cystic fibrosis.
A tic is basically just an involuntary, often repetitive movement or vocalization. So this could be something like twitching my head, or like a face twitch, or like an arm movement, stepping in a certain pattern, or like yelling things out. I also have a symptom of Tourette's that's kind of rare, known as coprolalia, which is yelling out of obscene phrases, or sometimes making obscene gestures, and saying things that are just completely inappropriate for the social situation. So this can include swears, it can include racial slurs, it can include obscene gestures like sticking up the middle finger or something like that. And these are all completely involuntary. It impacts me a lot more than you would think it would, because of the way that people perceive this condition. You know, they think of it as being something that's really rare, and they think of it as something that's, you know, the way it's portrayed in media is not really what it's like, and so they think, oh, if you have Tourette's, you're constantly yelling things out, and that's not what it's like for everybody. So for someone like me with like a less severe case of it, a lot of times people won't believe me when I tell them that I have Tourette's. I've had a lot of problems in high school with teachers thinking that I was just being rude, thinking I was just swearing randomly, thinking I was just being disruptive. And I'd tell them, oh no, I have Tourette's syndrome. And because they know me as, you know, a good student and a decent person, they would think this person doesn't have a condition like that. This person is a normal person. And, you know, what is normal?
Sure. So I think my allergy, in particular, my type of allergy is one that's not readily acknowledged necessarily in the media. I go into anaphylactic shock if I consume food that I'm allergic to, and I'm allergic to gluten and nuts. And a lot of times people with gluten allergies have celiac disease, which is also very severe type of allergy, but it's one that it's a longer period of time for it to build up and affect your bodily system. For me, if I consume food that has an allergen in it, it's automatic poison for me, and I can go into anaphylactic shock within, you know, a half hour to 2 hours immediately if severe enough. So it's just something that I always have to be really cognizant of and make sure that I have a good bearing on what I'm eating and that there was no cross-contamination in its preparation and things like that.
I got a concussion in 8th grade when I was snowboarding, and before up to that, I never had any problems. And we think, I mean, I probably might have always had it, but we think that it might have triggered something in my brain to like make me more hyper and make me more unable to focus and stuff like that. But it's difficult, but it's not at the same time. So I don't know. It's tough to explain, but definitely having like people around you who know you have it, and like so I mean, it's because it's not like anything too like devastating, but you definitely have people around me who support me through it and stuff.
I'd definitely say anxiety is one of those like invisible disorders. Like not everyone like knows that I have it. Not everyone like realizes like how much I struggle with it. So I think that's kind of hard. Like even some of my closest friends I don't think realize like how badly I have it. So like one of the main things with anxiety is I can get panic attacks, which is probably the worst effect I think I have from it. And basically it's like I'll get tunnel vision and then I don't feel like I can breathe, so I start freaking out. And all my life, like I guess this started in high school and then it's just progressed. And I think being in college and like the stress and all the things you're trying to accomplish don't really help my anxiety.
Well, it obviously impacts me a lot. My friends at school would always be like, "Oh, Tasha, you're finally at school." Like they just don't understand what it's like to have a migraine. It's so debilitating, and you know, people just don't understand if you've never had a migraine, like all the symptoms and how it can last. Like it can last up to like 3 days, and
Living with CF, there are the physical components that you can see, like I do aerosols every day and vest that shakes me, but it can be hard to live with an illness that no one else sees. Like anyone I go to class with doesn't know unless they recognize that I have more of a cough than most people, just because they don't necessarily know all the time that you have to put into that disease in addition to schoolwork and just regular exercise and things like that. So that part can be hard, but I mean, one of my like proudest moments is when someone tells me like, "Oh my gosh, I never would have guessed you had CF." Like that's like a really proud moment for me. So it's good but bad at the same time.
So I had an interesting event happen to me this year where the Office of Disabilities here actually tried to infringe upon my ADA rights, which was not a fun time and I didn't really know what was going on, but I talked to my mom about it and she was like, "You realize that's infringing upon your rights." So basically what happened was I was in a class, I had been ticking a lot, someone complained that it was distracting to them, that it was interfering with their condition, that because of my ticking they couldn't focus in class. And the solution that they came up with was that, oh, well, if you tick, you just have to get out of class. You just have to leave class. And if you miss material, then you have to make it up on your own time, which isn't exactly fair to me. And because it's a condition that is kind of rare, it's not something that's dealt with a lot. And so they didn't really know how to deal with the situation. Eventually, we just came to the conclusion that there's no best way to fix it. You know, it's not like if someone was sneezing in class, you know, you'd say, okay, well, if you have a cold, everyone who has a cold needs to get out of class if they're about to sneeze because it might be distracting. It's exactly like that. But people don't view it that way because, I don't know, I guess the stigma around it and the fact that people don't know a lot about it and people don't know that it's very uncontrollable and it's very unpredictable. So that's been a difficulty for me because now, ever since then, I feel so uncomfortable in my classes because I feel like, am I distracting people? Am I making people uncomfortable? Am I making people upset? So it's hard for me, definitely, like when I do have periods where I'm ticking a lot, I get embarrassed. I get really embarrassed because people don't know anything about it really. People make assumptions about me. People make assumptions about the disorder. And it's uncomfortable.
The biggest challenge for me possessing food allergies is, I think, just some of the limitations it places on you, specifically in terms of socialization and things like that. Like growing up, gluten-free menus were not something that were prevalent at all. They've become a big trend now. You know, it's like second in Hollywood, like Scientology and Botox. You have gluten-free diets, and So now it's a lot more feasible for me to go out and eat with friends and eat with family and stuff. But for a long time growing up, that really wasn't something that my parents were comfortable with putting me in that situation when I was a kid. So, I guess as a child, it was like, I didn't really have sleepovers at other people's houses because they were afraid they were going to kill me. I didn't get to eat out a whole heck of a lot. So that was a limitation growing up, and certainly placed a burden on developing as a normal kid, with relationships and things like that. And then I think today, just the biggest impediment is I definitely have a desire to travel. I want to be like an international social worker, a rights activist, but I've never been out of the country. I'm going for the first time this summer, and trying to manage the scene of having food allergies in places that might not be as familiar with labeling allergens and stuff as we are here in the US today. It's a little problematic, especially if I would ever look to go somewhere where English isn't like the lingua franca. It would be hard. So
one time when I took the ACT, I didn't take my medication in the morning, and I actually remember like the reading portion. I would read something, and I would see like a word, like I would see like I would see like marker, and I would think about how a marker is made and like stuff like that. And next thing I know, it's like 20 minutes left. I'm like, shit, I haven't, I'm nowhere near to finishing. So, but when I am on medication, I don't have trouble focusing on stuff, but I feel like I have the same problem as everyone else. What a lot of people do is that I'll study, and then I'll get to the test, and I'll be like, shoot, I know I studied that, and I just can't remember it. So I feel like I just have normal problems when I'm taking tests. I never have any trouble when I'm on medication, like focusing on the test.
I think just like when I'm having like a really bad like day, all I want to do is like go to my room and like go into bed. And like I also am very much like, my home in Cincinnati is like the place that I feel most comfortable and I feel most safe. So I think going to Ohio State and like being away from my parents who like just know how like what I'm going through is probably like the hardest thing. Dealing with that, just because like at home I can control it a lot better than I can at school. So I think like the hardest thing is like when I am having like say a really bad week is like basically just like motivating myself to get out of bed and go do things even though I know I'm not going to be able to. And then I think another big thing for me is my anxiety causes a lot of insomnia. So I don't sleep at night a lot because my mind never stops racing, and I'm always thinking about the things I have to do and like the things like that are like plaguing my mind and like I'm worrying constantly.
Biggest challenge definitely is schoolwork, and then also my social life. I just never was able to like really go to school in high school. Like I missed 50 days of high school my senior year, and socially I never hung out with my friends because I was always recovering from a migraine over the weekends.
The biggest challenge it has brought me is when it physically limits my goals. Like I know I've been for a while now trying to work back. I used to be able to run a 6-minute mile in like 6th grade. But like now just working back down to like try and get that 7-8 minute mile. And like it's just really frustrating for me when my body tells me no. I think that a lot of people, including myself who live with CF, have an issue with perfectionism because you can constantly do these therapies every day and like you still get sick and like but you're always working harder and like it's just like an endless cycle. So that's probably one of the hardest things.
I think that it is definitely a part of who I am, just because of the way the experiences I've had because of it have shaped me. They've made me advocate for myself more. They've made me a little more resilient. They've made me kind of have to own every part of myself, because when you have Tourette's, it's invisible in a way that, just looking at me walking down the street, you wouldn't be able to tell that I had Tourette's. But it can also be very visible when I'm, screaming swears in the middle of class. And it can be confusing for people, but it's made me kind of have to own up to who I am and own up to like, this is part of me, this is something that's gonna happen in my life. And, I kind of just want to educate people about it and let people know like this isn't weird, this is just my normal. And so yeah, I definitely think it's a part of my identity.
certainly it's something I guess I would identify with. You know, if someone else has a food allergy that's severe, I'll be like, yeah, you know, I do too. And that's cool. I guess it can be a little bonding thing. But I don't think it's something that I put like central to my identity. That's something that a lot of people have always asked me. You know, there's different organizations that work with food allergy, like FAN or FAIR, I believe it's called now. And you know, people are always saying you should do this. You know, they have like blue pumpkins on Halloween to like acknowledge that you know, that children are trick or treating with food allergies. For me, I'm always kind of hesitant to get involved with anything like that because I just feel like there's a lot more to me, and there's a lot more to other kids that have something like this, like an allergy like this. I just feel like instead of differentiating ourselves, which we already are enough, you know, I sat at like a peanut-free table specified at lunch growing up for the first 9 years of my life. So there's enough where you're already, you know, aware of the fact that you have a disability or, you know, a difference. So I don't really think it's something that we need to place at the core of our identity. I think for me, it's kind of a peripheral thing. I'm a lot more than, you know, just having an allergy. It's obviously something that if anyone, you know, gets to know me well and we go out to get food, it's always going to be something that's very visible. But I certainly could think of tons of other things that I would describe myself as before saying I have an allergy.
Personally, I like, besides the focusing aspect, personally, I like being off my pill, but I do being on my pill. I think that I am a more fun person when I'm not on the pill. I like being energetic. Sometimes my friends don't like when I'm being energetic, but I like when I'm being energetic. Sometimes Megan doesn't like when I'm being energetic, but I like being energetic. So I definitely do think that it's part of my identity. That's something I accept.
I feel like I work with it pretty well. Like I've had it since high school, so I've like learned to deal with it a lot more than I did in high school. So I think like in that way, no, but then yes, because I do struggle with it every single day of my life. So it is something that like is a part of me, and it's going to be a part of me for the rest of my life. So I think there's like a twofold answer to that.
Yes, I've definitely had to overcome a lot with migraines, like I said, with school, socially, and playing a sport like tennis.
I definitely view cystic fibrosis as part of my identity. I think you have to, in order to keep yourself healthy. I think it's extremely important to recognize it because otherwise you're in denial. You're not doing your therapies, and one of the most important things you can do to remain healthy with cystic fibrosis is do your daily therapies. And when I advocate for CF, like at certain events and things like that, one of my biggest lines is always, I am an individual who has CF, but I'm not defined by it. So it's not my complete identity, but it definitely, I think you have to recognize it in order to treat it in the best way.